What's up? Let me start. It was about 6 months ago, I was doing a similar speech like this, and I said to my 14-year-old son, he asked me what I was doing today, and I said, I'm going to speak at an artificial intelligence conference. And he said, well, first thing he said, why would anyone want to listen to you? But he said to me, well, Dad, why does the world need artificial intelligence when we have the real kind? Which I thought was an interesting question. So I proceeded to say to him, well, you have to understand there are certain problems that machines, and basically I gave him my speech for the next 20 minutes, and he cut me off. And he said to me, so Dad, what you're telling me is people are smart, and machines can be smart too. And if you put people and machines together, things get really smart. And that's basically my speech today, right? In 2022, the narrative has really become one of, well, is it like the John Henry, the race for man versus machine? And I think that's a stupid question. I know people like, when does the machine become sentient? I don't know. It's not today at my humble point of view. And I think what firms should be doing, and can do what we're doing to drive value to our clients, is using these tools to make smart people smarter. So if you haven't heard of Morgan Stanley, we're a small boutique investment shop. We now have three main businesses. We have a financial advisor channel, 15,000 financial advisors. And then we have the advisor-led channel, which is 3.4 trillion. If you look at the work, we have a business that services workplace clients, and we also have a business. We bought E-Trade recently, so we now have the ability to service the financial needs of anyone from a 23-year-old just graduated from college to a multi-billionaire. And I would argue that one of the advantages we have is that we have a lot of data around those people and how they behave over long periods of time. And we're trying to use that data to drive more value to those different cohorts. Okay, so where are we right now? So I think the state of AI is still somewhat mixed. I think most organizations are still confused. They see tremendous promise, but it's complicated. And I think too much of this conversation starts with AI and not the business problem. It's like saying, we're going to build a fax strategy, 30 years ago. Like the phone is not the strategy. AI is not the strategy. The strategy is engaging customers. And I think oftentimes we rush through these capabilities without understanding what we're actually trying to do. And I think that we need to reframe the discussion around how do we serve customers and how do we make decisions more effectively. And by the way, sometimes those decisions do require a very, very complex neural net with thousands of attributes. And sometimes those complex decisions can be surfaced really, really effectively by giving access to a business partner to a data visualization tool so they can do it themselves, right? And honestly, in some ways, I've trained over 1,000 people in our data visualization capabilities, and I would argue I get as much value out of that than I do from some of my more sophisticated machine learning algorithms. And finally, too much of the conversation is around which is better. I don't really care. That's not the game I play right now. The game I play is how do you make smart people smarter? How do you make better people do a better job with this? So, in 2015, people may remember that there was a lot of talk about the robo-advisors. And by the way, we have a robo-advisor, and that tool is totally appropriate for certain demographics. So I'm not here to bash on robo-advisors. I think they actually serve an important niche. But there was a lot of talk about that financial advisors were going to be dead in 2020. Like 5 years, people said that there would be no more financial advisors and that the machines were going to take over. Well, guess what? That actually has not happened. But we obviously wanted to make sure that we were prepared, right? Do we need to shift the business model? So we asked some fundamental questions. What do clients value? What are successful financial advisors doing to grow their business? And then how do advisors spend their time? So again, these are humans that have clients. They pick up the phone every day, they make investments, they build financial plans, they do banking and lending. And the fundamental question we asked was, What do these people do? What makes for successful clients and what makes for successful relationships? So guess what we found? That what clients are really looking for is trust. They're not looking for an allocation. They're not looking for a mortgage. That all comes if you have trust. So we did a ton of customer analysis, and the one word that kept coming back was that I want to trust my financial advisor, because it's like a doctor. You're giving them your net worth, right? Now guess what? You know how you build trust? You talk to them. In 2022, I tell our financial advisors the most powerful tool that they have in their arsenal, it's called a telephone. It is called a telephone. And by the way, if you call your clients consistently, and if you engage with your clients consistently, you are going to do more business than if you don't pick up the phone and call them. It took me 5 PhDs to figure out that calling customers was actually a good strategy. But the data is unbelievably strong. And we have lots of capabilities and lots of tools, and I can just tell you all day long about how differentiated they are. But even in 2022, people want to, and by the way, it's not just old people. The data says that 25-year-olds that have complicated financial situations also still want to talk to people. I know people may not believe that, but that's actually true in my data set. I don't have that kind of out of place. All right. What I want to do now is I want to talk about just pivot really quickly about what's not empathetic, because my whole speech is about empathy and bias. And there's a lot of examples, and I'm sure you're familiar with these, and some of these are debated, so I don't want to argue with you, but about how data has been used in a way that isn't particularly. So there's some stuff around patients in a healthcare company. This correctional offenders was biased. And in 2019, an online company was actually sued by a federal agency. I'm not going to mention the name of that company because of race and gender. And the point being is that I do not believe that these machines are ready to run on their own yet. If you do not have smart, intelligent people that are governing this stuff, you're going to make mistakes. For two reasons. One is you've got the whole bias issue. But the other problem you have, which I think people tend to forget, is that machine learning is only as good as the inputs. And the implicit bias in machine learning is that the behavior of the past equals the behavior in the future. So guess what happened? Guess what happened when COVID hit? All my models got it wrong. Why? Because I did not have a global pandemic that shut down the world for 2 years in my data set. So they were all wrong. And by the way, that's where the world changes, right? And there are fundamental changes, and you have to be careful about those. So I want to give you one example. This is a true story. My mother passed away 18 months ago, and this was a chatbot conversation I had with, not my chatbot at Morgan Stanley, another financial institution who shall remain nameless. So I said, I obviously haven't changed the name of the bot. I'm here for you, right? Very friendly. I said, my mom recently passed away. It's a true story. I'm trying to figure out what paperwork I need to process her estate. Can you help me? Because she had some money in a mutual fund. So I'm trying to figure this out. If even everyone passed away, it's kind of a messy process. So Betsy says, that's definitely something I can help you with! Exclamation point. And while I'm looking it up, would you be interested in a low-interest credit card option? It's got a flexible payment plan. Lots of exclamation points. This is not the tone I want when my mom died. My mom died, are you serious? And I actually typed this. And her response was, and if you act now, you even customize it with a picture. And at this point, I'm so pissed off, right? I said, how about a picture of my dead mom? I know this is sick humor, but this is hard stuff to solve for in chatbots. I'm not saying it's not possible, but humans do much better, right? A human probably would not say, Mr. McMillan, would you like a low-interest credit card when I'm calling in about my mom's death benefits? Oh, and then she didn't understand the question. She totally spazzed on this one. She didn't know what to do. Okay. So what else do we learn about financial advisors? that there is a fundamental shift towards greater use and comfort with digital capabilities. By the way, our most digitally engaged clients are our wealthiest clients. That advisors that had a model of strong client engagement combined with the use of these capabilities drove real value, so all by engagement and leveraging the tool set. But our analysis showed that evaluating ideas was really hard and was very time consuming. And we needed a better model for sourcing ideas and driving engagement. Okay? So, we launched in 2018 what we call NBA, or Next Best Action. And if you imagine you're a financial advisor, what do? You come into work every day, you ask, who am I going to reach out to? Why is this idea important to my clients? Why is it valuable to my clients? Why is this idea going to help my clients? Why does it matter? Do I call? Do I email? Do I have a meeting? And then the final question is, did it work? Right? We live in this world where we think everything we do is great. Well, the truth is that some stuff doesn't work. So imagine you come to work every day, you're a financial advisor, and you've got 1,500 people, from the fixed income traders to our market research analysts and everything in between, and they are taking their best thinking and they're putting it into our machine. And that machine is then comparing every single idea based on the benefit that it has to a client and the propensity for that client to historically engage in that type of idea. So for example, if you have 2 shares of IBM versus 20,000, a downgrade of IBM has more value to the latter than the former. Okay? Or if there's an upgrade in the tech sector, you tend to trade a lot of tech stocks. Maybe that's something we want to flag for you. And imagine all of that goes in the system, and then we score every single client in the entire firm against those 2 attributes. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's basically what it does. And then we give an ordered list to every financial advisor, both at his book level or her book level, and an individual client level on every single idea that we think they should send out. And then, like I said, we take some models, we have a machine learning model that sits on top of this, and then we give it to people. We give it to financial advisors. And they can call, they can email, they can meet, they can do whatever they want with it. We do not go direct to consumers, because what we have found is that the financial advisor knows more about this client. And the machine, as good as the machine is, it still misses a lot of what's going on in the client's life. We don't know people going to divorce. We don't know that, maybe we don't have a child or whatever it may be. And then what that does, and what we've learned, is that combination produces what we call the best possible decision. Now, the best possible decision may not be ultimately the right decision, but on a probability-weighted basis, this combination of humans, and we've run a whole bunch of studies on this, where we run the machine, we run the human, and interestingly enough, in this world, human still does a little bit better than the machine. But the machine plus the human, it totally kills. Okay? So, the other advantage of this is that, let's say the market just dropped 4%, and you want to engage your entire client base on that opportunity. So, we actually pre-write the emails for our financial advisors. And if you notice in the blue, each one of these, so let's say I have 200 clients with a plan on file, I would click on that button, I would pull up that template, and I could create 200 personalized emails, and not just with Mary and Bob, right? Because you guys have all figured, all the tech vendors have figured out how to do that, right? But what's really powerful here is that look at what it says. You see the underlined portion here? It says the S&P declined by 4%, but your portfolio was down 2.4%, and your portfolio is currently allocated at 60-40. And then down here, your probability of success remains above the target of 90%. You actually have a 91% probability. And the point on this is, you are assuring your clients that while there was a major drop in the market today, it really doesn't impact you because you have a long-term time horizon, right? And you're going to be okay. This is good financial advice. I'm not selling you anything. This builds trust. And we have, I'm not going to disclose the underlying metrics here, but essentially, under this, this is a slightly different view of it, but what we did is we looked at low levels of engagements of clients, and I'm not going to define what that is, but just trust me, it's lower. And then what we did is we looked at people that increased the email engagement, then we looked at people that increased the phone engagement, and then we said people that do both. And look at, and this is a metric of client satisfaction. Just leave it at that. But the point is that together, digital plus the algorithm plus the human is what's driving growth. So the other question we had, and I'll give you one more example, is that we have a stock plan business. So if you're familiar with that business, if you have restricted shares, we also provide 401k plans. We do financial wellness and education for companies. And that business had been around for a long time, and you would get referrals from that business, and those referrals were handed out manually. So we asked the following questions about that. What factors about a client and financial advisor are driving better engagement? And are these factors things that we can influence? So think about like a match.com between financial advisors and prospects, and trying to really assign the best financial advisor to the prospect who is most interested in his or her skill set. So we built an algorithm. And what we learned is that some financial advisors are better at engaging and converting leads than others. And there were attributes of certain prospects that made them more likely to benefit from an advice relationship. And that we learned that the digital warming, right, and mostly through education, like no selling of anything, just educate, create trust, is really powerful. And that machine learning algorithms can combine all these factors to make a better matching algorithm. So essentially what we do is we take a bunch of FA prospect pairs, we run it through a machine algorithm, and from there you create a list of recommendations. Those people pick up the phone, they call, they engage, and then we make it better every day. And what I'll show is two examples here. So we did this, X is sort of where we started from. When we enhance that algorithm, and again, that algorithm identifies the best pair, then it goes to the financial advisor, then pick up the phone, right? There's no, the process is still human. And what we found was that we got a 30% lift on what we call the digitally engaged. So these were clients who were purely engaging us over digital channels. And we found a 60% increase in the old, where some branch manager somewhere was kind of giving out leads to his pals, right? And oh, by the way, this increases fairness. You can do anti-bias against it. And all those things potentially were happening before. I'm not saying they were, but they could have been happening before, and there's no way to actually be able to really measure it. So my point is, which is my son said, what do machines do well? They can process large amount of information. They're very fact-based and unemotional, and the machine learning allows for ongoing improvement. But what are the weaknesses of the machine? The predictive value is only as good as the quality of the historical data. Data can also have explicit and implicit biases. And it's very hard to, like, as humans, we can just walk into a room and we can take something in like 2 seconds. You gotta load the data, you gotta make sure it's clean, and that can be really time consuming. But humans, so we can reason, interpret, and synthesize data pretty easily. It's kind of what we do well. And we can combine our education, our experience, and evaluate reason. And I would argue that one of our greatest strengths, if you are in the human business, if you're not in the human business, maybe it doesn't matter, but if you're in the human business, I would argue that empathy is still one of the greatest drivers of trust, which is one of the greatest drivers of growth. But what do we do as humans? Well, we have limited computational power. We can't run a neural net in our head, not the way these machines do. We also have explicit biases, and we also get tired, and we want to go home. So my point is the best outcomes will come from combining superior computational power and the uniquely human traits of reason, deduction, and empathy. So what are the keys to success? Don't solve for AI. Solve for the business opportunity. fail, you're going to fail because of this. You don't have good source. It's not predictive in value. And we spent years on this problem. I mean, I can do a whole thing on data quality and data governance. It's the most important thing we do. You're not going to fail. There's enough, go to that room there's enough really good vendors that will help you solve your problems. And honestly, I know a lot of them. Many of them are excellent. But you're not going to fail because you don't pick the right vendor. You're going to fail because you don't educate, engage, and partner with the different constituencies. I mean, I must have had 180 meetings to get this thing over the goal line at Morgan Stanley, literally. And don't take people out of this. Don't let these machines run on their own. They're not ready. Right? Like giving my 16-year-old a Ferrari and tell him to go. He doesn't have a license yet. Very, very dangerous. And then ultimately, AI initiatives are no different than any other initiative. That you solve them by having clearly defined objectives. You collaborate with other people, and you need your boss and your boss's boss. I mean, I actually worked with the co-president of Morgan Stanley. That goes a long way in terms of drive because he believes in this strategy. But I guess I would end by just saying, for all the talk, I always like to slide it into my presentation. I still think these things are true, and let's not, somehow we think that all this stuff doesn't matter. I would argue if every organization focused on the things I'm going to talk about, it'll have even a bigger impact than AI. So people are still our most important resource. Building a collaborative organization that trusts each other is huge, huge. Leadership always matters. You can't do this without leadership. Clearly defining your objectives and give people a sense of accountability. You can't do this alone. There's no big AI project that you're going to be able to do that is going to require 20 different groups. Respect for the individual is everything, and we have to act ethically in everything that we do. I would argue even more so in the world of AI, where we can do bad things at scale. Diversity, I know there's a lot of talk about D&I. You want people with different experiences, different backgrounds, different everything, because you want to kick the tires on these things really hard. And then finally, these machines don't teach themselves. Humans teach machines to learn, right? And what we are doing training in 2022 are teachers of machines. That's the new thing that we are and that we're doing. It's teaching machines to learn. So, how am I doing on time? Are we over? Well, I'm done. So, if anybody has any questions, or are we done?